Imagine the shock when a top CEO abandons his desk and goes undercover, only to witness a worker collapse right before his eyes. Michael Carter had built his company, Titan Manufacturing, from scratch. Over the years, what began as a humble workshop blossomed into a sprawling enterprise with factories dotted across several states. Yet, despite the impressive growth, Michael began to notice troubling whispers among his management team, complaints about exhausting shifts, dwindling morale, and a dip in the quality of their products. His gut told him something wasn't right, but the higher-ups insisted it was just the growing pains of expansion. Determined to find the truth himself, Michael made a bold decision. Instead of simply reading reports and holding meetings in sleek boardrooms, he would go undercover and experience the reality on the factory floor firsthand. Disguised in a faded work shirt, a pair of worn-out jeans, and a baseball cap pulled low, Michael adopted the persona of Mike Carter, a new temp worker. He blended in with the thousands of laborers whose faces were rarely seen by the company's upper echelons. His heart pounded as he walked through the large, noisy facility where the constant hum of machines filled the air. It wasn't long before Michael began to see the grim reality behind the polished exterior of Titan Manufacturing. The factory floor was a battlefield of relentless machinery and harried workers, all moving with a robotic urgency that stripped the day of any joy. Supervisors barked orders with little regard for the human toll, and every break was a luxury that few could afford. Michael's day took a devastating turn when, while performing his assigned task of assembling parts, he noticed something that made his blood run cold. A young worker named Ethan, known among his peers for his quiet resilience, was visibly struggling. His movements grew sluggish, his face a mask of fatigue. Then, in a moment that seemed to stretch on forever, Ethan collapsed right on the factory floor, his body crumpling like a marionette with its strings cut. Time seemed to freeze. For a split second, Michael felt as if he were watching a nightmare unfold. As workers paused in their tasks, their eyes widening in shock, the response from the floor manager, a stern man named Robert, was nothing short of chilling. Instead of rushing to help, Robert merely muttered, "He's just worn out." Get back to work, dismissing the incident as routine. Michael's heart thundered. He quickly sprang into action, rushing to Ethan's side. He could see the raw pain and exhaustion etched on the young man's face. In that moment, Michael knew that the issues were far deeper than mere production targets. They were a systemic problem of neglect and exploitation. Unable to stay silent any longer, Michael made the courageous decision to reveal his true identity. Removing his baseball cap and glasses, he stood tall before the shocked workers and the stunned manager, declaring, "I am Michael Carter, CEO of Titan Manufacturing." The factory fell into a heavy silence as every eye fixed on him. His voice, though calm, carried the weight of his determination. Michael began to recount the disturbing observations of the day, the extreme work conditions, the dismissed emergency, and the mounting quality issues that had been affecting both the workforce and the company's reputation. He made it clear that the well-being of his employees was non-negotiable. With a decisive tone, Michael dismissed Robert on the spot. "This factory will no longer operate as a sweatshop," he announced. "We are going to change the way things are done here." His words rippled through the room, a mix of disbelief and cautious hope lighting up the faces of his workers. Over the following days, Michael implemented a series of immediate reforms. Forced overtime was abolished, and workers were encouraged to take the breaks they needed, no longer a luxury, but a right. The company's outdated wage policies were overhauled to ensure that every worker was fairly compensated, even for extra hours. One worker, a kind-hearted woman named Sarah who had always been a quiet pillar of support on the floor, was promoted to a leadership role. Sarah's empathetic nature and genuine concern for her colleagues quickly earned her the trust of everyone around her. Michael personally oversaw improvements in the factory's conditions. Additional rest areas were constructed, and fresh, cool water stations replaced the old, unreliable dispensers. Michael didn't stop there. He scheduled regular, unannounced visits to all his factories, ensuring that the changes weren't just cosmetic, but embedded in the very culture of Titan Manufacturing. Over time, the factory floor transformed. The air that once reeked of despair was replaced with an atmosphere of cautious optimism. Workers began to share smiles, exchange friendly banter during their breaks, and even laugh together, a stark contrast to the oppressive silence of the past. As the weeks turned into months, the positive changes became undeniable. Production quality improved, and the once rampant turnover rate began to drop. Employees felt seen, heard, and valued. Michael's hands-on approach not only restored morale, but also reminded everyone that leadership was about caring for the people who built the company, not just the numbers on a spreadsheet. One quiet evening, as Michael walked the now revitalized factory floor, he stopped by a corner where Ethan, who had once collapsed, was chatting with Sarah. Ethan, smiling with a newfound energy, said, "I never thought I'd see the day when the boss would come and work alongside us. It means more than you know." Michael nodded, a mixture of pride and relief washing over him. He realized that true leadership meant sharing in the struggles and triumphs of every worker. Michael's journey from boardroom to the factory floor was a turning point for Titan Manufacturing. It wasn't just about fixing production issues, it was about rebuilding trust and honoring the dignity of every individual on that floor. And in that moment, Michael knew he had redefined what it meant to lead. News of the factory's transformation spread quickly, and soon other branches of Titan Manufacturing were under scrutiny. Michael's new policies became a model for change across all locations. Independent audits were introduced, and an open-door policy allowed workers from every factory to report concerns directly to corporate leadership without fear. Some managers resisted these changes at first, clinging to old habits and the belief that strict discipline equaled success. But as Michael's reforms began to show tangible improvements, higher product quality, a drop in absenteeism, and a boost in overall morale, resistance gave way to reluctant acceptance and, eventually, to enthusiastic support. The journey wasn't without setbacks. There were moments of friction and challenges as the old culture tried to reassert itself. But Michael's unwavering commitment and his willingness to listen to his employees paved the way for lasting change. Every step forward was a testament to the idea that when people are treated with respect and fairness, they not only work harder, but also thrive. In the end, Michael's daring undercover mission was more than just an investigation. It was a revelation. It illuminated the stark truth that beneath the polished surface of success, there could lie deep-seated issues waiting to be addressed. By stepping into the shoes of his workers, Michael not only uncovered the harsh realities of overwork and neglect, but also sparked a revolution in corporate culture. Titan Manufacturing emerged stronger and more united, a place where every voice mattered. And for Michael, it was a personal journey that redefined his legacy, not as a distant CEO, but as a leader who dared to face uncomfortable truths and make the hard choices for the betterment of his people.